I never considered myself a particularly paranoid person, but when I noticed the way Mrs. Caldwell's eyes darted around her apartment every Tuesday evening, my instincts kicked in. She had lived in the same building for years, always keeping to herself, but that day she seemed different, restless. "You can't trust everyone, Emily," she warned, her voice dropping to a whisper as she leaned closer. "Strangers have been visiting, and it happens every Tuesday. I think they're watching us." I told her not to worry, that the world wasn't as scary as she believed, but deep down, a knot twisted in my stomach. Mrs. Caldwell wasn't the kind of person to lie, and I had felt it too. That chill in the air, that flicker of anxiety that crept in when I closed the door behind me after work. Curiosity gnawed at me, and I decided to investigate. It wasn't long before something remarkable happened. I had been feeling out of sorts that week, the kind of restless energy that usually accompanies sleepless nights. By the time Tuesday rolled around again, I had convinced myself it was time to act. I borrowed an old camera from my neighbor downstairs, the kind that could blend into a plant on my coffee table or sit innocuously on the shelf. As I set it up, I felt a mix of apprehension and excitement. What if Mrs. Caldwell was right? I lured myself into thinking it could be something as mundane as a delivery, perhaps a visit from her daughter. But the moment the camera recorded the figure stepping into my view, my heart raced. I squinted at the screen, the image sharp enough to make out the silhouette. It was Lauren, my sister-in-law. I felt my breath hitch in my throat. What was she doing in my building, and why was she creeping into Mrs. Caldwell's apartment? I leaned closer, watching as she reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope, slipping it inside the cabinet. Only days before, I had felt the tight grip of betrayal wrap around my heart, and now it tightened even more. My bond with Mark was fraying at the edges, frayed by whispered secrets and concealing shadows. I played the recording over and over, each time feeling that betrayal slice deeper. My mind raced. Lauren had no reason to be here, no reason to be sneaking around. "Emily?" Mark's voice broke my thoughts as he stepped through the door, his brow furrowed in confusion. "What are you doing?" I straightened, the camera slipping from my hands. I quickly turned off the footage, hiding the evidence of what I had attempted to capture. "Nothing," I answered, forcing a smile that felt miles away from my heart. "Just checking on a few things." "Seems more like snooping to me," he remarked, the edge in his tone making my stomach churn. I hated how I instantly felt small under his gaze. I brushed past him with a dismissive wave, retreating to the bedroom. The truth was, I felt betrayed, not only by Lauren, but by Mark as well. A few days prior, when I had brought up my promotion, he had dismissed my hopes with a wave of his hand. "You need to show more leadership, Emily. Maybe next time." That statement had stung, making me feel as if he no longer saw me as the ambitious woman I had always been. But now I was ready to reclaim my sense of power. I would not be a pawn in any game they were playing. I started observing their habits, gathering as much information as I could. Each Tuesday brought me a step closer to the truth, and with every passing week, I collected details like a puzzle that was begging to be completed. "Have you seen Lauren recently?" I asked Mark one evening, casual enough to not raise suspicion. He shrugged, his nonchalance only fueling my fire. They were too close, too connected, and that email I stumbled upon a few nights later proved my fears to be true. Mark had been careless, sending an email to Lauren that had spilled secrets, confessions, and a web of emotional manipulation that left no room for doubt. I felt the heat of rage spark inside me. I wouldn't wait around any longer, unsure and vulnerable. It was time to... I changed the locks on our apartment and ordered a surveillance system to cover my tracks. I needed to protect myself, to ensure that no one else could invade my space while I worked to reclaim the life that was mine. As I stood in the doorway, the shadows of my decisions looming large, I felt a strange sense of strength. With each passing moment, I was shedding layers of betrayal, preparing for the confrontations ahead. I could already envision the look on Mark's face when I would finally confront him, and Lauren. The tension would be palpable, but I was ready. The truth would emerge, and I would stand tall, fighting for my heart, my life, and my independence. As the week wore on, I felt a mix of anxiety and determination swirling inside me. I had to confront the darkness creeping into my life, and I was not going to let fear dictate my actions anymore. I replayed the footage from the hidden camera in my mind, the sight of Lauren slipping that envelope into Mrs. Caldwell's cabinet becoming etched in my memory. What was in that envelope? Secrets? Lies? Whatever it was enough to stir suspicion, and I intended to dig deeper. It was Wednesday morning when I decided to have a chat with Mrs. Caldwell. I knocked on her door, a tight knot in my stomach. "Mrs. Caldwell, it's Emily. Can we talk?" "Oh, dear, come in," she said, her voice a comforting balm amidst my rising tension. As I entered her small, cluttered apartment, I took a seat at her kitchen table, colored with the warmth of sunlight spilling through the window. "Is everything all right?" I began, carefully gauging her expression. "I just wanted to know more about what you mentioned the other day, about the visits." Her eyes darted to the window as if afraid of being overheard. "Those visits, they make me uneasy, dear. I don't want to alarm you, but there's something off about them." "Why do you say that?" I pressed, leaning in. "They don't seem friendly," she whispered. "Always the same time, always in a rush. And Lauren, I don't trust her." Her words wrapped around me like a vine, tightening with each mention of Lauren's name. "Did you see anything specific that worried you?" Mrs. Caldwell bit her lip, hesitating. "Once, she brought a man with her. They talked about you, Emily, like you were a problem that needed solving." A chill enveloped me, and I inhaled sharply. "What do you mean, a problem?" "I don't know, dear. Just that they were saying things that didn't sound right. I tried to listen, but—" She trailed off, shaking her head. "I appreciate you telling me," I replied, my voice steady even as chaos brewed within. "I'll keep my eyes open." As I left her apartment, a burning anger surged in me. Lauren was meddling in my life, and I couldn't let her. I pulled my phone out and texted Sarah, my closest friend. "Can we meet? Need to chat about something important." Just a few minutes later, Sarah replied, "Of course. Coffee at the usual spot?" When I arrived at the cafe, Sarah was already seated, her eyes lighting up as she spotted me. "What's going on? You look like you've seen a ghost." "It's Lauren," I said, lowering my voice. "She's been visiting Mrs. Caldwell, and I think she's up to something." Her brow furrowed. "What do you mean? Is she harassing you?" "Worse. I think she's plotting something with Mark," I said, feeling the weight of my words. "I caught her on camera slipping something into Mrs. Caldwell's apartment, and Mrs. Caldwell just told me that Lauren was talking about me like I'm some sort of problem." As I spoke, I could see the realization dawn on Sarah's face. "Emily, that's serious. Have you confronted Mark about it?" "Not yet," I admitted, the knot in my stomach tightening. "I need more proof first. I'll be damned if I walk into that conversation without solid evidence." "Let me help," she offered, her tone resolute. "We can figure out a plan to catch them in whatever they're doing. You won't be alone in this." Her support lifted the weight off my shoulders, igniting the fire in my belly. We spent the next hour discussing potential strategies, jotting down a list of questions and scenarios. The cafe buzzed around us, but my mind was laser-focused on how to gather the evidence I needed. I would confront Mark, and I wouldn't back down. In the days that followed, my routine shifted. I became more observant, often sitting in the car parked across the street from my house, watching Mark and Lauren. They didn't know I was watching, and that gave me a strange sense of power. I noted the small things, how they leaned in close while talking, laughing a little too hard at jokes that weren't funny. It felt like I was piecing together a puzzle, each observation leading me closer to the truth. One evening, I caught them both leaving our house. My heart raced as I quickly grabbed my phone to snap a picture. The evidence was piling up, and I felt that fire turn into something even stronger: resolve. Then came the email from Mark. I was sitting at my kitchen table, surrounded by my thoughts of the impending confrontation, when a notification pinged on my phone. It was from Mark's account. Hesitant, I opened it. Lauren, we need to figure this out before she finds out. I can't have Emily discovering what we've been up to. Let's keep it under wraps a while longer. My blood ran cold. I had suspected their betrayal, but this was confirmation. It was time to take action, to protect myself from this web of deceit woven by those I once trusted. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. I won't let you manipulate me any longer, I whispered to myself. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt something shift within me. This was my moment to reclaim my life. I drove home that evening, my mind racing with thoughts of betrayal. Each turn on the familiar streets felt alien. The world outside my window was vibrant and alive, but inside me was a tempest. Seeing Lauren sneak into Mrs. Caldwell's apartment had sparked a fire of unease. Now I was gripped by a need to reclaim my life, to face the chaos head on. That night I could hardly sleep. Every creak of the house echoed louder than usual, and I imagined shadows shifting in the corners of my room. I needed answers, and I needed them fast. The thought of my husband chatting secretly with my sister-in-law gnawed at me. I had always trusted Mark, but his recent behavior made me question everything. The next day, I showed up at the office early. My usual routine felt hollow, my conversations with coworkers strained. Sarah, my closest friend, caught me staring blankly at my computer screen. "Emily, are you okay?" she asked, concern etched in her brow. I sighed deeply, resisting the urge to confide in her all at once. Instead, I opted for lightness, just tired from all the late nights. "Well, you know I'm just a call away if you need to talk," she said, her tone inviting. I nodded, grateful for her support. Yet my heart was heavy with the burden I bore. After work, I returned home and decided it was time to put my plan into action. I had seen a locksmith's number on my phone and dialed it immediately. "Hello, is this the locksmith? I need to change the locks on my house." "Sure thing, ma'am. I can get someone out there within the hour," the friendly voice on the other end replied. "Thank you. I'd appreciate it," I said, hanging up and preparing myself for the confrontation that lay ahead. When the locksmith arrived, I felt a mix of relief and anxiety. He was a burly man with kind eyes, and it almost felt comforting to have a stranger taking care of my security. As he worked, I shared my woes. "It's crazy, you know. I just don't feel safe," I admitted. "People can be real clever sometimes," he responded, nodding knowingly. "You're doing the right thing by changing the locks." His words stuck with me. For too long, I had allowed others to dictate the terms of my life. I couldn't afford to let fear control me anymore. As soon as the locks were replaced, I felt a wave of empowerment wash over me. The next day, I decided to observe Mark and Lauren more closely. My gut told me to tread carefully, but my heart burned for clarity. I positioned myself strategically in the coffee shop down the street, pretending to read while I kept an eye on them. Them to show up, their laughter booming across the cafe as if they were in on some intimate joke. I leaned in closer, trying to catch snippets of their conversation. As I strained my ears, I couldn't shake the feeling of invasion. This was my life they were playing with. "Did you send that?" Lauren asked Mark, her voice low and conspiratorial. "I'm waiting for the right moment," he replied, with a smirk that sent a cold chill down my spine. A knot tightened in my stomach. What right moment? Were they plotting something even more sinister? I had to find out. I grabbed my phone and texted Sarah. "Emily, can we meet? I have some things to discuss. It's urgent." Sarah, "Of course. Coffee?" Emily, "Yes, the usual place." Once I shared my findings with Sarah, her expression shifted from concern to disbelief. "You mean to tell me that you observed them planning something? This is serious," she said, her voice low. "Exactly. I can't just sit by while they wreak havoc on my life. I need proof," I said, my determination rising. We strategized over steaming cups of coffee, Sarah's support bolstering my courage. "We can confront them together," she suggested. "No," I said firmly. "I need to do this alone. I won't let them corner me." Later that night, as I sat at my desk reviewing the emails I had saved from Mark, one in particular caught my eye. It was a chain conversation, revealing conversations that confirmed my suspicions. Mark had sent Lauren an email detailing not only his disdain for me, but also plans for an escape route from our marriage. I felt my heart race, but also a strange sense of liberation. I wasn't going to let their betrayal define me. I would confront them head on and expose their lies. With a deep breath, I grabbed my phone and wrote back to Sarah. Emily, I found something huge. I'm ready to confront him tomorrow. Fingers shaking, I took a moment to breathe, feeling the weight of the betrayal add fuel to my determination. Tomorrow was the day I would take control back, not just for me, but for all the women who have been manipulated by their loved ones. I was ready to fight. The quiet tension in our home was suffocating. Each day that passed felt heavier than the last, a constant reminder of the betrayal lurking in the shadows. As I settled into the couch, my heart raced with anticipation and dread, the email from Mark buzzing in my mind like an angry bee. How could he? I whispered to myself, clenching my jaw. The words on the screen were etched in my memory. I just need to deal with Emily's problem. It'll be easier that way. Those words dug deep, cutting into my trust and leaving it bleeding. I knew I had to confront him, but my hands trembled at the thought. My phone buzzed, breaking the silence. It was Sarah. "Hey, Em, any updates?" she asked, her voice filled with concern. "Yeah, I found that email I told you about. It's worse than I thought. He's been plotting against me." My voice dropped to a whisper, the weight of it settling over me. "Oh no, are you okay?" "I will be," I sighed, trying to muster some semblance of strength. I just hate feeling so powerless. I'm tired of waiting for something to change. I need to take action. "Let's meet. You need a plan," she replied firmly. Just then, I glanced out the window and saw Mark's car pull into the driveway. Panic surged through me. "He's home," I said, my voice barely a note. "Okay, just breathe, Em. We'll talk later," Sarah urged. I hung up, the phone slipping from my fingers, as I realized I had no idea how I was going to face him. The door creaked open, and Mark stepped inside, his expression neutral, but his eyes darting around our living room as if assessing the situation. "Hey," he called, the casual tone grating against my nerves. "Hi," I replied, forcing a smile that felt more like a grimace. "How was work?" "Busy, you know how it is," he shrugged, hanging his coat. "Yeah," I said, my heart pounding. I could feel the heaviness of the conversation hanging in the air, just waiting for the right moment to drop. He moved toward the kitchen, and I followed him, trying to steady my breath. "Mark," began, the weight of his name feeling monumental. "We need to talk." He glanced over his shoulder, his brow furrowing. "About what?" "About you and Lauren," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. He stiffened, his back going rigid. "What do you mean?" I took a deep breath, gathering the courage I didn't know I had. "I know about the email. I know what you've been saying about me. You think I'm a problem." His eyes narrowed, masking any guilt behind a wall of defiance. "That's not what I meant. You're overreacting." "No, Mark, I'm not. You're being deceitful, and I won't stand for it." He stepped closer, his expression shifting from anger to confusion. "Emily, you're twisting this. Lauren is just what? A sister-in-law who can't stay out of our business?" I interrupted, my voice rising. "I saw her. I found the envelope. You've been conspiring with her against me." "Conspiring? That's a strong word," he scoffed, crossing his arms. "It's the truth," I said, fury and hurt blurring my vision. "You've been lying, and I can't keep pretending everything's fine. I'm not your problem to solve, Mark." He opened his mouth to respond, but I didn't let him. "You've made your choice, now I'm making mine." Mark scoffed. "You're being dramatic. Are you really going to throw everything away over a misunderstanding?" "Misunderstanding? You've been plotting how to rid yourself of me like I'm some inconvenience." "I still care about you," he said, his voice softening.
but it felt insincere. No, I shook my head, tears brimming but refusing to fall. You care about controlling the narrative. You don't get to treat me like this and then pretend everything is okay. Before he could respond, there was a knock at the door. Sharp, authoritative. I peered through the peehole and felt a jolt of fear. It was Lauren. "Emily," I said, glancing back at Mark, "you need to leave, now." "What? No, we can talk about this," he protested. "Not with her here. Please." "Fine," he huffed, his anger boiling over. "I'll be in my office." As he stormed away, I opened the door to find Lauren standing there, a feigned innocence plastered across her face. "Hi, Emily. I just wanted to check in," she chirped, but her eyes shone with a mischief that made my blood boil. "Save it," I said, cutting her off. "I know what you're doing." Her smile faltered, and for a moment I saw the cracks in her facade. "What do you mean?" "You think I don't see you sneaking around? You think I'm blind to your schemes? I won't let you manipulate my life anymore." Lauren straightened, her eyes narrowing. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Don't I?" I challenged. "You're not going to ruin my life or take my husband from me without a fight. You've underestimated me." She stepped back, the bravado fading as realization dawned. "This isn't over, Emily." "No, it's just beginning." With a newfound resolve pulsing through me, I closed the door and turned, heart racing. I wasn't going to let them dictate my worth. I would reclaim my life, and it started now. As I sat in my car outside the coffee shop, where Mark and Lauren had planned their latest rendezvous, a mix of anger and fear coursed through me. I had spent the night stewing over the email I discovered. Every word felt like a dagger to my heart, slicing through the trust I once had in them. I clenched the steering wheel as I recalled their whispers, the way they exchanged knowing glances while I was oblivious in my own home. This time, I wouldn't just watch. I took a deep breath and stepped out of the car, determination tightening my chest. I felt strong enough to confront them, yet terrified of what I might reveal if I let my emotions take over. The sound of the bell jingled as I entered the coffee shop. I spotted them immediately, sitting in a cozy corner, their bodies leaning in, as if sharing a secret that belonged only to them. The sight made my stomach churn. I approached the table with firm steps. "Mind if I join you?" I asked, forcing a smile that felt more like a mask. Startled, they turned, and for a moment both looked genuinely surprised to see me. "Emily, what a surprise," Mark stammered, his face paling slightly. Lauren's smile was strained, the uneasy tension palpable. "Just wanted to see how you two were doing," I said, my voice steady. "You seemed quite busy the other day." Lauren's eyes darted to Mark before she cleared her throat. "Oh, we were just discussing some family matters, right, Mark?" "Right," he agreed, but his tone lacked confidence. "I see." My heart raced as I leaned in closer, my voice dropping to a whisper. "What's really going on? Because I found your email, Mark, the one where you talked about your plans with Lauren." The silence that followed was heavy, so thick I could almost feel it wrapping around us. Mark's expression shifted from surprise to defensiveness, and I could see him weighing his options. "Emily, it's not what it looks like," he began, but I was done with his excuses. "Then what is it? Because it sure looks like you're planning a life without me. I deserve the truth." Lauren shifted in her seat, her face a mixture of guilt and irritation. "You're overreacting, Emily. We were Just what? Making plans behind my back? You're my sister-in-law, and I trusted you." Mark's face turned a shade of crimson. "I can explain. It's complicated, Em. Just give me a chance to." "No," I cut him off, my voice rising. "You've had plenty of chances. You both have. I'm done being the fool here." As I turned to leave, I caught a glimpse of their shocked expressions in my peripheral vision. I marched out of the coffee shop, my heart racing, but for the first time, I felt a sense of clarity. I could no longer pretend that my marriage was salvageable. I had to take the next steps to reclaim my life. That evening, I sat in my living room, my emotions swirling. The confrontation had stirred something deep within me, a fierce determination to break free from their grasp. I could feel the weight of the past lifting, replaced by a fire I hadn't realized was there. I pulled out my phone and texted my friend Sarah. "Can we talk? I need some support." Her reply came quickly. "Of course, I'm here for you." When she arrived, I poured out everything, the betrayal, the hurt, the confrontation. I felt her empathy wash over me as I recounted my feelings of being blindsided. But amidst the despair, I could also feel a sense of empowerment growing. "Emily, you deserve so much better than this," she said, her eyes fierce. "You need to protect yourself, and you need to take back your power. Have you thought about what you want to do next?" "I've already changed the locks," I admitted, a small smile breaking through the sorrow. "And I'm considering seeking legal advice. I need to know my options." Sarah nodded, her expression serious. "That's a great start. You need to make this about you now." With her encouragement, I began to map out my plans. I would consult a lawyer, gather evidence of everything that had happened, and lay out my case for the divorce. My life was no longer defined by Mark and Lauren's actions. It would be defined by my strength and resilience. That moment marked a significant turning point. I realized that while I had felt weak for so long, I was capable of standing up for myself. I was determined to transform my pain into power, not just for myself, but for other women who had found themselves in similar situations. "Let's be clear," I said to Sarah, my voice steady. "I won't let them take anything else from me. This is my life, and I will reclaim it." As I spoke those words, I felt a wave of hope wash over me. I was taking the first steps toward healing, and I knew there was a strength within me waiting to be unleashed. This was not just an end, it was the beginning of my journey to freedom. As the weeks went by, my resolve strengthened. I had changed the locks and secured every corner of my home. For the first time in a while, I felt a flicker of hope ignite inside me. My friend Sarah had been my anchor through this storm. Each night we spent talking, plotting, and laughing felt like reclaiming small pieces of myself that I thought I had lost forever. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, I sat in my newly secured living room, sipping tea and contemplating my next steps. Glanced at my phone's calendar. The upcoming court date loomed over me like a shadow. I needed to be ready, not just for myself, but for all the women out there who faced similar betrayals. "Emily, you need to prepare for what's coming," Sarah said, sitting across from me. She leaned forward, her brow furrowed with concern. "You know they'll try to twist everything, right? Mark and Lauren are skilled manipulators. They'll make you seem crazy." "I know," I replied, my voice steady. "That's why I'm going to be prepared. I've got the emails, the evidence from the hidden camera. I won't let them make me doubt my sanity again." "That's my girl," Sarah beamed, her encouragement lighting a fire in my chest. "You're not just doing this for you. You're doing it for everyone who's been pushed down. You're going to show them they can't get away with it." I smiled, grateful for her support. The thought of standing up against both Mark and Lauren, exposing their lies, felt daunting, yet liberating. As the hearing day approached, I found myself digging deeper into the emotional manipulation I had suffered. I spent nights reading articles and books about betrayal and recovery, learning how to articulate my feelings and experiences in a way that someone who had never been through it could understand. The morning of the hearing, I woke up with a knot in my stomach. I dressed in a sleek, simple outfit that made me feel confident, the kind of attire that said I was serious and strong. As I looked in the mirror, I whispered to myself, "You are enough. You deserve this." The courtroom buzzed with anxious energy when I arrived. I spotted Mark sitting with Lauren in the front row, their faces locked in a facade of concern. I could feel their eyes on me, but I chose to ignore them. Staying focused was my only priority. I took a deep breath and walked to my seat, determined to present myself with dignity. "I call Emily Thompson to the stand," the lawyer said, and I felt my heart race. As I approached the front, I could hear the whispers of the audience, their intrigue palpable. I sat down and faced the judge, who looked at me with a blend of curiosity and empathy. My lawyer prompted me to recount the events leading to this moment. "Can you describe the relationship you had with your husband and sister-in-law?" I took a deep breath, letting the reality wash over me like a wave. Mark and I were married for 10 years. I thought we were happy. But as it turns out, he was involved with his sister, Lauren. I found emails planning a life I was never a part of. A murmur ran through the courtroom. I could see Mark's face shift from composed to panic. "What happened after you found the emails?" my lawyer probed. I confronted him. He gaslighted me, making me feel as if I was the one losing my mind. But I wasn't crazy. I had the proof. I glanced at Mark, my voice steady, despite the anger brewing inside. He didn't just betray me with Lauren, he betrayed our life together. He manipulated everything. "Objection," Mark's lawyer called out, but it was futile. The judge waved his hand dismissively. I took a moment to collect my thoughts, feeling empowered by the truth. After several tense exchanges, Mark's lawyer attempted to portray me as unstable, but I countered with clarity. I chose to stand up for myself. I took back my life. That's not unstable. That's strong. The judge seemed to lean in with interest, nodding as I spoke. I had never felt so alive, so assertive. I was finally reclaiming my narrative. When the hearing ended, the judge announced the ruling in my favor, allowing me to retain the house and granting a cease and desist order against Mark and Lauren. I could hardly believe it. As I walked out of the courtroom, a sense of liberation enveloped me. For the first time in months, I felt light. Sarah was waiting for me outside, her eyes wide with excitement. "You did it," she exclaimed, enveloping me in a hug. "You stood up for yourself, Emily." "I did," I said, tears of relief spilling over. I finally told my story. In the days that followed, I found my footing. I began volunteering at a local support group for women who had faced similar betrayals. Sharing my story with others not only helped them, but also healed me. I realized that my pain could serve a purpose, allowing others to reclaim their strength just as I had. With every shared experience, every hug, and every word of encouragement, I felt the weight of Mark and Lauren's betrayal lifting. I was no longer defined by their actions. I was evolving into who I was meant to be, strong, resilient, and ready to embrace life on my own terms. The courtroom was filled with a heavy silence as I stood before the judge, clutching my documents tightly. The air was thick with tension, and I could feel the weight of every eye on me. Mark and Lauren sat together at the front, their expressions a mixture of defiance and disbelief. I took a deep breath, reminding myself of everything that had brought me to this moment. "Miss Emily Harris," the judge called, her voice cutting through the room like a knife. "You may present your case." I stepped forward, my heart pounding in my chest. I had rehearsed this countless times, but nothing could prepare me for the reality of this moment. I looked straight ahead, focusing on the judge's attentive gaze. "Your Honor," I began, my voice steadier than I felt. "I'm here today to show not just that my husband, Mark, has betrayed me, but to reveal how emotional manipulation has become a weapon in our marriage." I glanced at Mark, who shifted uncomfortably in his seat. I continued. "For years, I trusted him completely. We built a life together, and I believed in our future. But when I discovered his emails with Lauren, everything shattered. They were not just casual exchanges, they were plans for our lives, as if I was nothing more than an afterthought." I saw the judge's eyebrows raise slightly, and I pressed on. "I have evidence." I gestured to the stack of papers in my hand. These emails, along with my hidden camera footage, clearly show that Lauren was not just a sister-in-law, but a key player in this betrayal. I felt my privacy invaded, my dignity stripped away.
After laying out the evidence, I took a moment to collect myself. I had rehearsed the facts, but now it was about more than that. It was personal. Lauren, Mark, I said, turning to face them, you both could have come to me. I loved you both, but instead, you chose manipulation and deceit. You made a choice to hurt me. Mark's eyes darted away, and Lauren crossed her arms defensively. The atmosphere was electric, and I could sense the tension rising. I ask for the court's understanding, I pleaded. I want to keep my home, the one place where I can rebuild my life. Their actions have shattered my trust, and I need to reclaim what's mine. Miss Harris, the judge interjected, would you like to address how you wish to move forward? Yes, I replied, my voice stronger now. I want to use this experience to help other women who felt trapped in similar situations. We deserve to rise up and reclaim our power. As I spoke, I felt a surge of strength flowing through me. The fear that had once paralyzed me was now replaced by a determination to rise from the ashes. I glanced back at my friends in the audience. Sarah gave me an encouraging nod, and I felt a sense of solidarity. The judge listened intently, and after what felt like an eternity, she finally spoke. I have reviewed the evidence presented today. Mark Harris, Lauren Alden, your actions show a profound lack of respect for Miss Harris and her trust. I am granting her the right to retain her home, which she has fought so valiantly to protect. A wave of relief washed over me, but it was quickly followed by a surge of anger directed at Mark and Lauren. I couldn't let their betrayal define me any longer. I needed to reclaim my narrative, to find the strength within myself that I thought I had lost. What you two have done to me is unforgivable, I said, my heart racing, but I held my ground. But I will not allow this to be the end of my story. You may have brought chaos into my life, but from that chaos, I will rise stronger. With that, I turned on my heels and walked out of the courtroom, feeling lighter with each step.
The betrayal consumed me anymore. I had a new mission, to support other women, to help them find their voices, and to show them that they too could reclaim their lives from the shadows of deceit. In the following months, I began meeting with groups of women who had faced similar struggles. As I shared my story, I could see the spark of hope awakening within them. We exchanged stories, tears, and laughter, each moment reinforcing my belief that healing was possible. My experience had taught me invaluable lessons about resilience and strength. As for Mark and Lauren, their names faded from my mind. Their betrayal no longer had any power over me. A new chapter was unfolding in my life, one filled with friendships, self-discovery, and the joy of helping others. I had turned my pain into purpose, and in that transformation, I found my true self once again.